Okay, so our goal today is to create a 10 things list about data management for the intended audience of deep ocean scientists. We're going to talk about what a things list is and a little bit more about the motivation in a minute. We have deep in parentheses here because we don't expect that the kinds of information about data management that deep ocean scientists need is really fundamentally different from other ocean scientists, but that happens to be our target audience right now. Okay. Not advancing. Okay, so there we go. All right, so this is a team effort. I'm Karen Stocks from Scripps Institution of Oceanography. We have Stace.
Hi, I'm Stace Bolio from Woods Hole Oceanographic.
Carolina, do you want to say hi for yourself? This is also going to test our audio for our virtual participants.
Sure. Hi, I'm Carolina. Audio good?
Yep, and you are co-chair of the ESIP Data Management Cluster.
The Marine Data Cluster,
Right.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm also from Scripps.
Dawn Wright is not here with us today because she is out at sea, possibly in a submersible at the bottom of the Marianas Trench right now. So, you know, priorities. And then Leslie, would you like to say hi?
Hi, I'm Leslie. I'm the project director for the Deep Ocean Observing Strategy. So great to have you guys here and excited to talk more about data.
Great. Okay, so first of all, thank you all for coming, whether you're here in person or whether you're online. For those online, we've got some links here to Google Docs. And for those who are here in person, we will be doing some work with Jamboards and with Google Slides. So you might want to get yourself set up to be able to get into that folder yourself. Just a reminder of the ESIP community participation guidelines. By participating in this session, you agree to adhere to those guidelines. There's a link there. If you do have any issues or concerns, there's information on how you can report it. And I'd also like to take a moment to thank our ESIP support. We have Sahara here, who is helping out. Britt was helping. We had Megan here earlier. So thanks to our ESIP colleagues for their support. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about the motivation and goal for today's session. Then we're going to work in Jamboard to do a little exercise where we capture what the current pain points and needs are. A little bit of a breakout exercise that we may actually at this point just split to online versus in the room, see how that goes. And then sort of reconvene to pull it back together and look at next steps. All right, so the motivation here, what we're trying to address is what are the top, am I handing off to you at this point? Not yet. Okay, what are the top 10 things data curators wish scientists with deep ocean data were aware of? So this is sort of a light level touch at the question. So think of it as if you're walking down a hallway, you've got 5 minutes with an oceanographer who actually asks you, what can I do better with my data? What would you tell them or ask them to read or point them towards?
Great, so we have a main goal for the day. And our goal is to select from existing resources. And we want to ultimately create a one-page flyer that will list about 10 things. And these we'll go through what kinds of things these could be, concepts, do's and don'ts, pointers to references. And we have a target audience for this flyer. You may not know about the Deep Ocean Observing Strategy, or DOOS. So DOOS is an international network of scientists, mainly oceanographers. These are observationalists and modelers, and this community would like to have this flyer. And we are very inclusive here. So although we have a target audience, this exercise I think is going to be useful just in general, and not even just for marine data. I know we have an environmental data scientist in the room here. The work we do towards determining this set of resources will probably be applicable to other earth science communities and other systems. Oh, and now I get to hand off a slide to Leslie, who is a representative here today from the DEUCE program.
Hi, everyone. So figured we'd give you a little bit of a background about DEUCE and why we're interested in picking your brains for this top 10 list. So DEUCE, the Deep Ocean Observing Strategy, is an international community-based group that coordinates deep ocean observing to understand the state of the global deep ocean with respect to baseline conditions, response to climate change, and response to human disturbance. We were formed as a global ocean observing system project in 2014. So DEUCE is part of GOOSE. And then we were also endorsed by the United Nations Ocean Decade in 2021 as an Ocean Decade program. So our goal is to cultivate a globally integrated network of networks to observe the deep ocean effectively in support of science, policy, and planning for sustainable oceans. So how we're doing this is we're trying to break down barriers, build partnerships, and open new lines of communications across networks, disciplines, and communities to seek collective solutions to global deep ocean challenges. So the data and informatics community plays a really large role in these efforts. As you can see, you guys make up your own tier. Can you advance, Karen, of who's included in the DEUCE network of networks, and then advance again, Karen. And ESIP is on our list, and I'm sure some of you will also see your organizations on this list as well. And so not only do we feel that the data informatics community are key players, but we've also specifically organized DEUCE such that everything relates to data. Data isn't its own separate team doing separate things. If you see the diagram on the right here, we have our network of networks going down. We have the different types of working groups going across, and the box drawn around everything is data. And that's how we feel about it, because everything that our working groups are working on in some way has to do with data and requires the support of data. So you can go ahead to the next slide. So here's a brief snapshot of DEUCE's working groups. I'm not going to go through all of them for you, but hopefully if you see something on here that you find really interesting, you can follow up with us afterwards, if you'd like to work with any of these groups more. This is work like defining deep essential ocean variables. So what do we need to measure in the deep ocean, and what's the accuracy and precision of those measurements? What instruments should be making those measurements? Really defining those best practices as a community, trying to get modelers and observers to talk better together and link together their inputs and outputs. We have some implementation projects, and you can see on the map here the 4 circles and ovals of where those are. We're focusing on technology development, additional best practices work, translating science to policymakers and capacity development. And then we have a really big focus on early career researchers, integrating them into everything that we do and elevating them to leadership positions. So what we're hoping is this little bit of background about the broad brushstrokes about what DEUCE does, who we are, what we're trying to achieve. Hopefully that this gives you a picture about what our motivations are for why we've brought you to the table, because we really want to hear from you what you would tell a scientist with deep ocean data to make your lives easier as data curators and to make the data better. Our job isn't to invent new things or make new stuff for the community to do. Our job is to say, what if we work together? How can we make each other's lives easier? How can we make a better product? And how can we make something more comprehensive? So that's what we're here to do today. And I'm very excited to hear from you.
I think what's really particularly exciting for me is that the scientists are asking for it, and there's an international network of networks that can help us get it out. So this, this isn't something that we thought up on our own and we're going to try to hope somebody cares. There are people who care, who are waiting on us. All right, so what are these things list? This is sort of a trend that's been coming out. This is one example, 23 things in library research data. And a thing can kind of be anything. So we're creating this flyer. A thing can be a pointer to an article or a publication. It can be just a figure or an image on itself. It can be a pointer to a tool. It can be a place to get help. It can be direct advice, a direct statement about, you know, something to do or think about or do. It can kind of be anything, which is why we use the vague term things. And it can also be a little bit fun. So this is Dawn's contribution to the effort. This is just a little Lego graphic that helps people explain, you know, the different levels of organization for data and why to do it. It's not a comprehensive course. We're aware that there are very good training modules in Ocean Teacher, in the ESIP has, you know, their own collection. So, you know, this isn't a university course. It is just small little tidbits of critical information versus a giant buffet of everything. That said, you know, I think it's reasonable. We can also have links for sort of, if you want to know more, we can certainly give people guidance or pointers to some of the more comprehensive information out there. All right, so the audience here is scientists who generate deep ocean data, particularly those from smaller projects or programs who do not have devoted data management expertise. So a lot of the big observatories and things, they have professional data management staff, technicians, but think about the seagoing scientist who's kind of on their own and is not really sure what to do with their data. And as mentioned, this is going to be promoted and distributed through the DEW's Deep Ocean community as a flyer, and hopefully more widely than that as well. We have a second part of this work planned, which is to turn the tables. So we're going to go to the DEW scientists and ask them for the 10 things that they wish data repositories knew about their world or could do better for them. And our vision is to present these side by side in a poster at a conference, possibly AGU if we get there quickly enough.
Okay, great. So let's get started. All right, so I'm gonna kick this off by giving a couple of examples to help everyone kind of get into this process. And we're gonna, essentially we'll have about half an hour as a full group, including everyone online. So it looks like there's about 9 people online. There's about 4 people in the room here. So we're gonna start together with a Jamboard, and I'll show you that in a moment if you're unfamiliar. And then we're gonna basically throw sticky notes onto the Jamboard. And we might discover that some of our wish lists overlap. Like maybe what we wish is, like what I wish might be what Mike wishes, or for example. So we'll group the wishes on the Jamboard, and then we can use that in our breakout. We're gonna have a room breakout and then a virtual breakout. In our breakout, we'll be able to use Google Slides to start identifying specific resources that address that need. So now, Sahara, I'm gonna try this out. I'm gonna try to open the Jamboard here on the screen and start a first example. Let's see if this works on the screen. Great. Okay, so it's not full screen yet here in the room. So the font is a little bit small. Let's see if I can make this a little bigger. Okay, great. So I'm starting off an example of if only I wish, right? If only the scientists that I work with would provide clean spreadsheets, right? And what do I mean by that? I mean not an Excel file with a lot of functions in it and a lot of colors and everything. I'd love to have a spreadsheet with date, time in a nice format, right? I'd love to have a spreadsheet where the column headers don't have a lot of special characters. So this is my little pain point, clean spreadsheets. And then let me see if I can navigate back to the slides. What we would do is go in our breakout room. We would use a Google slide to document what to do about clean spreadsheets. So here we go, example. So my wish list item was clean spreadsheets. And then I put a bullet here. What is the underlying need here? And I think about fair data, definable, accessible, interoperable, reusable. I'm thinking here of the I and the R in FAIR data. I want tabular data to be well organized, well formatted. I want it to be easily parsed. I want to reuse tabular data, right? So that's the underlying need. And then here's where my opinion comes in, which is, I mean, I feel guilty a little bit here because I've pointed to a specific resource that I think addresses this need. And believe me, in my training, I've used a lot of different resources to help people format spreadsheets. But here we go. I've put a link to the one that I think is the one I would want to put on the flyer. So kudos to the data carpentry folks. I think your materials are incredible and I use them quite often. Okay, so that's one example. It's already worked out, right? So let's go back. If I can, ooh, it's underneath this. How do I go back to the Jamboard? It's like open underneath this. Uh-oh. Guess I'll just reopen it. All right, so I had a couple more examples. I'm gonna do one and then I'm gonna ask Karen to do one live. So here's what we'll do. Those of you who are virtual participants, you already have your laptops going, right? So you can actually start doing this if you want, but let's just go for it. So I'm gonna find a sticky note. Here we go, and where's my next example? And I'm gonna say organizing files into a nice directory structure. I don't know how to write that in just a couple words, so I'll just say organizing files. Okay, and I think this is different than the other example of clean spreadsheets. So I'm not gonna group it with clean spreadsheets yet. Okay, and then I'll go back into, I'll pretend we already broke out to the breakout rooms, and I'm just gonna do it on the example slide here, but we could have another, actually, let me do another one.
After the Jamboard.
Okay, let's do another. Okay, so just as an example, I would, in the breakout room, I would populate this with a topic, I would say what the need is, and I would give my specific resource, which by the way, is at the very end of the slides. Okay, so I'm gonna throw this over to Karen, who's gonna do a sticky note so we can get the Jamboard going.
Sure, and I'm gonna take this, all right, so I'm gonna take this I wish. Yep. So within dues, I think the definition we're using is the primary focus is on areas below 2,000 meters with an understanding that, you know, processes and information from 200 meters and down are also relevant. Leslie, how'd I do with that?
Yep, exactly. And in particular, because biology 200 meters and down, is the biological processes change a lot once you get below those depths. So yeah.
All right, so I'm not able to copy and paste, it seems, on this. Maybe you can make a new I wish for us.
I think you can right click and duplicate.
Oh. Right click. Yeah, there we go. That's
the trick was right click and duplicate.
Okay, so I'm gonna edit this one. I wish. Sorry. Okay, so as a data repository, I really wish scientists would not contact me for the very first time about submitting their data 24 hours before their manuscript is due. So I'm going to save that. And I think that's pretty different from the others. So I'm just going to drag it down here. Okay, are we ready? I think we've got a couple things in the chat. Let me just check those in case it's questions or comments. All right, we're good there. All right, so we now have, 5 minutes or however long it takes for people to do their own. This This is the get it out stage. We're all friends here. Just get it out. What are your pain points?
I have the microphone for folks in the room if you want to throw out anything.
Oh yeah, if you'd like us to.
What is that code?
If anyone is having trouble entering the Jamboard, I'm just going to go check the sharing permissions, which should be open to anyone by link. I'm seeing it as open to anyone with the link, so I'm really sorry about that if it's not working for someone. I don't know how else to adjust it. And I do see somebody is throwing up some cards, and using different colors, by the way, might end up being a good idea.
Hey, Stace. It looks like anyone from eSIP can only view it. I'm switching that to editor. Okay, see if that fixed it. There was like a specific group added for access.
Okay, we'll try that here in the room. I'm seeing some cards getting uploaded for if only all data were QC flagged. And if only all scientists would adhere to the CF convention whenever possible. Actually, there's a lot more coming in now. So, oh, and good idea. I see someone's putting a +1. You know what would be good? If you're able to put the +1s inside the card. So like if you click on the card and edit it, that way they can be retained with the same card. Yeah, great. So someone wants more clean spreadsheets as well. It's like me. I see that some folks in the room are typing, but let us know if you want to call it out, because I don't know if I might be missing something. And plus I want to add another card too. And Sahara, could you make it so that the people online could talk too, if they feel like it's faster to just shout out? Okay, great. I wish scientists would use the tools already in the community, such as Cruise Pack. Oh, I wish we had more funding. Who did that one? That's a good one.
Sorry, that's me. There's no link or pointer for that one. It's just therapy.
I'm going to put another one in here because I don't see it yet. Oh, wait 1 second. I'm seeing one in the lower right. I wish. Okay, that's the 24 hours. Okay.
To the point on the funding one, there might not be any links or resources for it, but there is a solution, and that's to get more money written into grants for data management, you know? If it was just simply a standardized thing to write more money into all these tiny projects to get more data management, there wouldn't be as much ad hoc data management stuff that would need to be done, right?
Yeah, good point. And also good that that card is now grouped with a relevant other card. So the one that I wanted to add, I'm trying to put into words. It was more like, this. It's funny, I think of the solution before I know exactly what the question is. I want scientists to be part of a community so that they have people to ask, so that they kind of broaden their perspective. What's the need? What am I seeing as the need? Like, I guess it's from my own personal experience. What, Mike? Mike wishes that he had a data technician who, well, you knew everything or knew everything with regard to? Okay, so let's, I'll add this. Oh, someone was really quick. They already got that added in. Good job. But yeah, there are skills in terms of how to curate the data that need to be learned, right? They're not the same as what you do when you analyze data for your article, for your figure in your article. The community thing though, did someone already type that in? Because I don't know how to put it in words yet. I wish scientists would participate in communities of practice, something like that. Here, I'll see if I can do it. I have some terrible typing on this computer. So I think Karen has started to group cards already. If only scientists would use a data assembly center to submit the individual observations instead of each individual cruise. That is so, I don't know if that's very oceanography specific, but in my experience, each expedition has its own unique challenges. And so that's kind of ends up happening. If only scientists would find domain repositories instead of Figshare Zenodo as their first choice. Interestingly, I would associate that with Karen's 24 hours card. Right, but it's not the same. I mean, I don't think the solution is the same, but I see those two together because it often happens that you only have 24 hours. What happens? Zenodo. I wish scientists would apply an analysis or AI-ready matrix to their data to describe its accessibility upon submission. AI-ready data. Wow, that's a level of interoperability that is really, I'd say, several steps above many of the observational scientists that I work with, but the number of steps are getting compressed because of all the kind of blossoming of machine learning techniques being applied to data and nowadays. So I see in my work, a lot of scientists want to bridge that gap. They just don't know how to get started. They just don't know how to jump into that gap.
And we're having similar conversations with the modeling community too about preparing observational data in a way that it can be read into these existing models. So I think it's definitely there. It's all these different types of formats. I don't know enough about the formats to know if model ready is the same as AI ready, but that would be lovely.
That is similar, Leslie. It's similar, but there's a kind of a spectrum. I'm looking at a card that says, I wish data are also distributed in the NetCDF format. And the reason why I looked at that card is because that's a way of making observational data interoperable with modeling data, at least in the ocean circulation community, with ocean circulation data products, gridded data products. I wish I had more storage space to store all the big data. someone grouped that with the organizing files, and I like that. I like that because in my work, I do, that's kind of where I experience that card with scientists. It's very challenging to, it sometimes can be challenging to put all the big data in one place, number one, right? And then to be able to curate products from those is another challenge. Oh, I'm running down with the microphone for Philemon.
No, I think it goes with the funding. The more storage, I think it goes with the funding.
All right, so are we close to the funding card? I think we actually are. Yeah.
So I'm sort of thinking that there's a resources cluster. So more funding, data technician, more storage, or should that one go back down with the, you liked it down with the data formats section?
No, I think storage, I kind of like having the storage up in between the funding and the organizing. It could be talked about in both. If only all variables were linked to a controlled vocabulary. I like the position of that card near the CF conventions as one option for as a metadata standard.
And I've just started trying to put some labels on the clusters.
Oh, great.
That are rising. Others are welcome to think too.
I'm going to move this. There's one card that says, I wish scientists would not submit data in spreadsheets. There are so many better choices for preservation. So I'm going to put that by the spreadsheet one, but make sure that it is still touching the NetCDF one. Oh, if only the QC flags associated with data strictly adhered to flagging rules. I love that one. If only scientists understood the basic FAIR principles. Yeah, I agree. I like that one grouped with the communities of practice. I wish scientists responded to emails and questions about their data in a timely manner. I agree that's a pain point, but since I caused that pain personally so many times, well, I'm thinking about what does that mean? It means like just kind of being understanding of the data life cycle and the timing of how things get curated and such. So it's kind of like just understanding better from the data repository side how that work gets done. Oh, I like that the idea of the better planning as the topic. Wow, that actually really works, I think, for that group of cards. You know, with the one about the tools, I wish scientists would use tools already in the community. Again, I agree. I like that that's with the community of practice because that's kind of something you learn from, you know, just the community that you interact with. I've often asked this question of students and others, like, how do you find out about new tools? It's not just in the articles that you read, it's in the Twitter feed. You know, in fact, that's quite common in the R programming community is to find new tools through the Twitter feeds.
And I could see that as being why folks end up doing Zenodo, because they just don't know the other more preferred things to do. So Another way
Yeah.
this top 10 sheet's going to be used, right? Tell us the tools.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, where were the cute? Oh, it's in between, Karen, I think. For the QC flagging, some of the one with regard to actually adhering to the rules kind of aligns with the standardizing formats and vocabularies, but I don't know. I think data quality and something that's not mentioned here, uncertainty about the data, those might be a topic on their own. I'm looking for nods. I see some nods.
Yes, online. I was just about to make a card for that.
Oh yeah, throw that in because I'm
Yeah.
not too good at typing. I'm better at talking things out. Karen's doing really well with the card movement. So we only have like about 1 more minute here or 2 more minutes to be able to do this. Did we see if we missed anything? Like it looked like we just missed uncertainty, but what else? Anyone online? I haven't checked the chat. In the room, we're asking about the completeness of metadata. You know, I think that is a good point, right? Because that's different than just following a format or a standard. It's like, yeah, you can follow a standard, but if you don't fill out a good amount of it, it's so limited. So yeah, good. And you already got a +1 on that one.
That was me. I typed it and I'm on board.
The completeness of it. I mean, it still kind of goes along with the using, it's not really though, because not all metadata is standard, right? It's just, it could be narrative.
Yeah.
But it's not very restricted and doesn't really help somebody else who knows nothing about the acquisition.
So the comment in the room was with regard to just, you know, if you're required to put something in a metadata form, just putting something in there is not as valuable as putting something really valuable in there. More descriptive. It takes more time. But you got another +1 on that. And I think I agree that because it takes more time, it's kind of the card got put closer to the planning concept. All right.
Yeah, I was just thinking it's kind of the intersection between using metadata standards, but also doing the work better. So it's kind of in between those.
Okay, and I checked, there's no additional comments in the chat. So at the moment we have at least 4 topics that we can identify resources for. And I think, I'm still thinking that quality control is its own topic. What do you think though?
I'm good with that because
Yeah.
I think there's some specific.
Okay, sorry.
I was just saying I'm good with QC being its own section because I think there are some specific resource pointers really just about QC things.
Okay. The only other thing is with regard to labeling these topics, I think for the resources one, we might want to, is that like budgeting and human resources? I don't know. I just want to clarify that it's like we're going to be providing resources for all these things. It's just that one of the topics is about the resources we have for this work. So I see at least 5 topics, and that means at least 5 Google Slides could be filled in.
Yeah, how do we do this with the virtual?
I think what we could do is well, there's more people virtual, right? So we could choose 2 of these groups for the room and 3 for the virtual. Just to, what do we think?
Yeah, I think since these aren't self-selecting, maybe we get started that way, but then maybe we swap so that people in the room have the option to add resources that they know of to the virtual and vice versa.
That's a great idea. Okay, so how about that? We do like 15 minutes on a subset of topics and then swap. Sahara, can you take time? Can you like make sure we keep on time? Great. Hey, Carolina and Leslie, being online, does that sound like a good plan for you?
Can you go over that again? Can you explain that again?
So first of all, the question is whether the virtual people can actually be virtual, right? And like, we don't, because if they're communicating, we would hear them if they're in this. Can we have an actual breakout room for them?
I think that's a can we question?
Yeah, can we, Sarah?
I don't know.
Oh, I see 6 here, so I didn't realize that. But you know what? If that's the case, then I mean, Carolina and Leslie can join us right here.
Yeah, so is the goal now to
Oh,
set
Jeff
up...
Gladstein's here too. And Kent. Okay. So there's 4 virtual.
I'd say let the virtual people do a breakout, but we can probably just turn our audio off, right? Then the online people
yeah, that could work. That could work. Yeah. Good idea. Is that possible, Sarah? We just turn off the, do I turn it off here? Yeah, just so that we don't hear the virtual communication while we're going. Oh, okay, they're asking us to do a breakout room for that. Does that, so Carolina and Leslie, Kent and Jeff. How about,
can you do 5 breakout rooms for each of the groups, or are you going to do everything?
No, it's just, there's not enough of us for that. So we would just do like several at a time altogether. So like here in live, in person, we could do groups 1 and 2 to start. And you would do 3, 4, 5. And then in 15 minutes, or sorry, we'll do it 10 minutes. We'll switch.
Oh, got it. Yes.
And then,
okay.
and then you would,
yeah.
So when we switch, you would be able to jump into our Google Slides already started, and we would jump into your Google Slides already started.
Sounds great.
Is that cool?
Yes.
Yeah, so you're right. A breakout room will allow them to share screen so that they can look at their slide together. Okay, good. All right, Leslie, sound good?
Yep, all good over here.
All right, Sahara's gonna create a breakout room and we'll have 10 minutes and then a switch and then a subsequent 10 minutes.
And so I'm setting up slides that have as headers each of these text labels. Is that the right thing to do?
Wonderful. And Karen is actually labeling the Google slide with the group topics. Okay, welcome back. Karen is still typing here, but I'd love for Karen to come back up, and we just want to do a quick check-in with those of you who are in the virtual room. Here in the main room, in the in-person room, we got to 3 cards, right? We did 1, 3, and 4. So we missed 2 and 5. So let's hear from the virtual folks first, I guess, because that would be exciting for me. It looks like a lot of typing is on group 2, standards, and planning also has resources listed. So, oh, can we turn, is their volume back on? Can we hear them?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, hi, Leslie.
Hi. I don't know, does anyone from the breakout room wanna give it a whirl? Or I'm happy to talk.
Go for it.
Okay, so let's see, you want me to start number 1? We talked about, Stace?
Sure. If you talked about number one, go for it.
Yeah, well, I think as we went from 1 to 2, we kind of skipped over 1 because we said, well, it's really important to fund data management, but and never mind, we didn't skip over it. Sorry, let me collect my thoughts here. So number 1 and number 2 really relate with each other. And so with number 1, what we kind of thought would be good for this top 10 list would be to make a statement about when you're writing a proposal, like, dear scientists, when you're writing a proposal, you need to make sure to give weight to your data management. Just as we want to make sure to give weight to education and outreach, you need to give weight to your data management, give it money in the proposal, hire someone or rent someone or partner with someone from an IT department or from a department in your institution that is good at dealing with data. And then, because I think that really carries over into number 2. So number 2 is about following all these standards. So my background is primarily science. And so if you can click down to the slide for group 2.
Yeah.
Whomever's sharing the screen.
It's showing it's, or are you showing it? It says I'm sharing.
I can see it now. So looking at this list on the left, pretty much every single thing in the list, I don't know how to do. I don't know how to make a .NET-CDF file, make something AI ready. I don't know what CF is. I don't know where to find a controlled vocabulary, and I don't even know what's another format than a spreadsheet. So I really want to do these things, but I just don't know. So then we started talking about a lot of resources where a scientist like me could learn about all these things, could learn how to code in Python, could learn all these different things. And then I started internally having a panic attack because how am I supposed to learn all this stuff? And then we realized you could just hire someone who already knows how to do it. So it goes together, because unless you're going to learn how to do all of this stuff, which is so important, you need to hire or rent an expert. And I love that Jeffrey kept chiming in, or rent, because you don't have to have a full-time person. You can partner with a data person. And so it's that giving weight to data management, in your science. It needs to be important. So I don't know, does anyone else in our breakout want to speak to anything I missed or misinterpreted?
Yeah, that was perfect.
Great. And I also want to add that your idea about making a statement with regard to providing weight towards the data management, data lifecycle, we agree with that here in the room. We had a discussion about scoping that out.
Yeah, Leslie, I like your suggestion a lot, because I was starting to think about what our, light and fun 5-minute hallway conversation flyer would look like if we start to point them towards, like, here are the full CF conventions, here's a description of .NET-CDF, here's your ISO 93115 metadata. Like, that's just not gonna work. So
yeah, I'm gonna take that pile that you just handed me and I'm gonna put it in the I will read this stack, which is,
All right, how about did you guys discuss group 3 about just general data management knowledge? No. In that case, here in the room, we did provide a couple of resources in the link there. And we talked a little bit about some specific training efforts. In particular, Leslie, check out an actual deep sea coral training effort that we learned about here in the room.
Because I think some of this stuff, people might know everything except for the CF thing, and you can give them the link and they can know that, or they just need to take a course and know that. But yeah, it's nice to have an out if you're also starting from scratch.
I'm kind of excited to look into this Fair Data comic. I didn't click the link open yet, but that a nice graphic could be helpful.
You go down to there.
Okay.
It's the one on the left.
Okay. This Fair Data comic is the one that was mentioned in the group 6 fun thing slide.
I thought it would be nice if the handout did not feel too academic and weighty. So if we have 1 or 2 imagey figure things right in it, that would maybe be good.
All right, group 4.
The home to badgers.
So group 4, did you guys in the virtual room talk about quality control?
No.
Okay, we had a bit of discussion here in the room, and if Jeff is still on the line, Jeff, I mentioned OOI preparing a blog post to describe how, what is Cortod? What is Cortod and how is OOI using Cortod? We didn't actually, the list of resources there is still, it's still not specific enough yet because we didn't identify a perfect resource yet, but Philemon and I were going to follow up on that, looking at the IUS Regional Association materials for education.
I'm just wondering if this group is really ready to recommend that like the whole world use Cortod. Is there
it's a good point
for other groups to have well-established, well-described quality flag schemes that work in their communities, and we want to allow for that?
Yeah, we were talking about how do you just in general describe to scientists how you want to, why do you want to do quality control and where do you describe it? You describe it, Peng mentioned the collection level metadata, right? And how do you just basically, we're looking for a good resource to provide value to giving quality control flags in your data. And then here's, you choose based on your community. I said Cortod just because IUS might have some good materials for that, but it is just one of many to choose from.
A good example framework.
Oh, there's a.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. When I say collection level metadata, I mean to describe the method you are using and overall, how comprehensive. And I think when the flag is concerned, it's probably more useful on the individual data point, if you could. Just want to clarify.
Sure. Great. So in our very last was group 5. So we didn't get to that here. So on the virtual side, I see you listed some resources. What was the gist there?
Well, one of the things that we talked about was the struggle with that when you put together a data management plan, it's really high level. And a lot of it is just about making promises to your funding agency. Like, I promised to have backups of my data. I promised to make my data open source. And you don't really have to have the details about how are you going to do what you're doing and the exact format that you're going to be putting things in. And so, whereas you can find a lot of resources for how to write a data management plan, that doesn't get the level of granularity that you need for kind of what we're talking about here. And so it'd be nice if there were resources, more detailed templates and more detailed step-by-steps beyond the regular data management plan. So that's kind of what we talked about.
Great.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to add in the CI Compass group, which is, I guess, kind of creating a community where people can talk to, there's a cross communication between scientists and, data folks, so they can actually get answers to some of these questions early on. I actually don't know too much about this, but I think that's a really interesting resource.
Yeah, and we brought up a bunch of the NCEI also as a resource where we can go to people. And then the one thing that we paused on was thinking about how DEUCE serves the international community. And I was emailing one of our colleagues in Mexico about data standards. Just yesterday, we're working on a thing for best practices. And I was like, NCEI has a set of standards. IMOS in Australia has a set of standards. And she says, I'm in Mexico. I don't have access to any of that. And I was like, oh yeah, that's really not helpful. Sorry. So it's kind of thinking for the rest of the global community, because there's a lot of scientists in small island nations, scientists in developing countries that don't have large federal scientific infrastructure to help them with standards. And they're looking to the global community for that. So what can we provide for them as well? And that's kind of my open-ended question for everyone.
I think it's a good way though to end our session, Leslie. Thank you, because our audience is going to be international. So we probably will, have to keep that in mind when doing the final list. And we have Karen here to close us out.
All right, let me just get back to our other slides. Okay, we've gotten through our list. We've done those things. We've convened. All right, so let's talk a moment about next steps. Thank you all for your time here today. We've got a lot of good stuff down. Probably going to take a little bit more work to get this one pager out. I think the next steps are to refine that one page flyer, try to really pull together what we've talked about today, share a draft with dues, ask them for their feedback on the other side. We'll present at AGU and then publish it in some way as well. And then I think what we'd like to ask, if you're interested in following the progress of this, maybe helping to pull together all the really good thoughts and ideas and pointers into our top 10 list, please add your name to today's session Google Doc, or just let us know, walk up and let us know. So help us carry this over the finish line to get a product that'll help those scientists. Any final questions, comments, thoughts, input? Do we have something in chat?
I just put the notes document in there, but that was
thank you. Thank you. All right, thank you all so much for your time today.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Bye.